The Texas Tech football team is back in the blotter. If you look at this unnamed suspect, so the incident occurred between 1:45 and 2:15 a.m., so I'm going to call that Saturday morning.
Yep.
When the reported victim was approached by a male suspect, that male suspect is allegedly a Texas Tech football player. Basically, the alleged Texas Tech football player was speaking to the man. The man couldn't hear him, or maybe he was giving him the stone cold what over and over. No wrestling fans here? All right. Couldn't hear him. Then the alleged Texas Tech football player grabbed him by the shirt and drug him outside. Now, to me, this is just saying, hey, man, you couldn't hear me in there, so I'm going to take you out to where it's quiet.
Right.
It seems like he was doing the guy a favor.
Yeah.
Dragging him outside.
A favor, relatively.
By the shirt.
Until 5 minutes later.
And then he was just trying to turn his face toward him with a swift uppercut, apparently.
Oh.
Several swift uppercuts. The alleged Texas Tech football player assumingly knocks the guy out. Because later in the article it says, when the first victim awoke. So apparently he was out for a minute or two. And then there was two other victims that were approached by the suspect. He grabbed a cigarette out of one man's mouth, threw it on the ground. Again, seems like the Texas Tech football player is just trying to be a nice guy.
I just want to say
smoking's bad for you, right?
Exactly, right. He's trying to look out for his
and
health.
Then he slapped a cigarette and ripped it into two pieces from the other guy. Which again, just being a nice guy.
Right. Just helping him out, doing him a small favor there.
And then the girlfriend of the first victim tried to get in front of the third victim who was getting assaulted. Now, this is just so convoluted. I don't want to make light of the situation, I guess I am right now, but
I just want to say, well done for taking over that and kind of deciphering it, because the article I'm reading is extremely confusing.
Yeah, there's multiple.
So I'm not too terribly sure what is going on.
Yeah, there's multiple reports out. Look, it's pretty obvious that this unnamed Texas Tech football player, and we don't know, we seriously don't know who it is not going to be on the Texas Tech football team much longer, if any of this is true.
Now, my co-host, Robert Wright, is listening, and he actually just sent me a text saying that the name was actually redacted. It was in the initial report.
Right.
The name of the football player, but it was actually redacted because he wasn't charged with anything yet. So.
Yeah, and he's not been arrested.
Right.
And he's not been charged with anything.
So.
Good to clarify.
Exactly.
Because, well, I do want to say seriously that I'm going to read this straight from the Lubbock Online article. Oh, I lost my paragraph here.
That's how it usually goes, right?
Once in the street, several other people, including the victim's girlfriend, followed, and the suspect and his friends began assaulting the victim, knocking him to the ground and repeatedly punching him in the head. He got knocked out from being assaulted. And then the cigarette business happened. So those are victims 2 and 3. And then victim 3 began a verbal argument, and the unnamed Texas Tech football player suspect punched the third person in the face. The first victim's girlfriend ran to check on the third person. A large crowd gathered, which just seems like this is like a movie script.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, this would be a great movie.
And the woman dropped to the ground and tried to shield the third person as 2 others assaulted the first victim. Okay.
Exactly. I'm telling you, it's confusing.
Anyway,
moral of the story.
Okay, here's the truth. Here's the honest truth. These were underage kids, the victims, who were drunk at a bar, got into an altercation.
Which is always going to lead to bad things.
Yes. Yes, children out there. If you're underage, don't go drink at a bar.
Exactly.
Or I guess we should say don't go drink. Right?
Right.
That's our public service for today.
Exactly. Doing the world a favor.
That's right. Sportsline. 1340 The Fan, PSA. Children, don't drink at a bar. Especially if it's 2 a.m. Don't close down the bar.
What's the old saying? Nothing good ever happens after midnight.
Yeah, my dad told
Something
me that
along
a
those
few
lines.
times.
A few times.
A couple times.
Trust me, I got that all the time growing up.
So we have these underage kids out at a bar, and they're drunk, and they get into an altercation, but nobody calls the cops because it seems like the entire group of people's underage. And so these kids wait until 1 p.m. the next day to call the cops. And apparently in the kerfuffle, the woman got punched in the face. Allegedly when she's covering the third victim. You can go read this article on Lubbock Online. It's said it's like written in the viewpoint of a 19-year-old girl telling the story.
Exactly.
I mean, it really is.
Exactly.
And they're burdened, the author here is burdened by, she can't list any names. And so it's all victim 1, victim 3, suspect 2. And so it's kind of hard to read through. But the moral of the story is some underage kids were out drunk at a bar, got into a fight. One of the alleged, and I guess here the winner of the fight is the suspect here. Mm-hmm. Cause I'm sure
I'd say so after.
I'm sure it wasn't just one guy punching everyone. I'm sure there was a scuffle.
Right.
People punching people. But, I mean, if video comes out and it's just one dude wrecking shop and he's the Texas Tech football player, which is how this article reads, it's like no other punches were thrown. It's just one dude. It's like the Punisher going around punching people and ripping cigarettes out of people's mouths.
It's like Jason Statham, the group of guys come up and they're always wanting to, start a small little scuffle with him, and he warns them ahead of time.
Gotta be starting.
He's like, look, you don't want to do this, anything like that. And then
I'm
all of
the
a sudden,
transporter.
boom. Exactly. It's kind of a weird,
it's just so sensational.
a weird article to read into, but decipher it how you will. If you want to take a stab at it.
I mean, bottom line is one of your Texas Tech football players is out drunk starting fights.
Yeah.
And that's not something you want going on. Right?
Right. I feel like Kingsbury and company, though, is pretty good at identifying the situation and those things and taking matters into their own hands.
Yeah, probably the biggest positive of Kliff is he is one of those guys who handles his program.
Absolutely. And it's been a testament to him since he started here. I mean, he's always been that way. And so, you kind of look obviously at Baylor, not the same case, you know. And so there may not be necessarily wins on the football field, but he runs a clean program. A very clean program.
And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this.
Is this the question?
This is the question we were talking about before the show. If you're an AD making policy, and let's extend this to a professional coach, owner. If you're in charge of a group of young men or women, do you set limits on what they can do? Like, do you make them sign a contract to not be at a bar past midnight? Or do you tell them don't drink at the bar? Like what are your regulations you're setting forth? Because especially if you make them sign a contract, that even protects you when you're trying to place discipline. Because it's like, I don't care that you were at a bar. I care that you disrespected this contract.
Right. That's kind of to me, that's a hard question because, I mean, obviously you have guys on the football team that are trying to live their college career more so. And so I'm not sure that they'd be open and accepting to a policy such as that. Is it necessary? Probably.
It seems more and more necessary lately.
Because it seems like it's kind of hard to trust your players with the responsibility of going out and making the right choices. And especially when alcohol is involved, you're not going to make smart decisions.
Right.
And so maybe there are grounds for policies such as that, but I'm not sure that you can necessarily enforce those too terribly well. You're going to get called out on that kind of stuff if you're out at a bar.
Yeah.
That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get blamed for lots of things. You're going to get blamed for anything your entourage does. Just ask Ray Lewis.
Yeah. Oh, man.